we're back with Rev 2. I think it's Rev 2. I haven't lost track yet, I hope. Alright, so, first thing, will it fit? Will it fit? Come on, you can do it. Oh, yep, it'll fit. Just going to clear that. Look at that, snaps right in there. You can see the opening for the charger port. Now we got to do what I did when I soldered the leads on here was I soldered the connection that came off of the boost side of this. I put a power switch in line, so come back here later and put that in position, run a few screws in there to hold it in place. That'll give us the power connection to the distribution, and we have a power connection for the battery. So let me get my fat fingers out of the way and maybe you can see that. And this will, let me see, where's this? So this is the power and ground on here. That'll slide right on there from the distribution board. And just to give you an idea, there's a very similar setup there. The only thing that we add is the breakout for the separate power. And I have a couple of different versions of that. I'm looking for the other one where I have a piece of vector board with some runs. When I find it, I'll show it to you. It's around here somewhere. In any case, next thing is and I should have showed you this before I put the battery charger in there, but we have a much bigger opening here. I think that's 3/8 I made it, something along those lines. So what's that, 8 millimeters roughly. Also made a cutout, a relief opening for that screw so that when it fits down over there it won't have to be removed. It'll fit right over it. And let's see here if we can get all the stuffing stuffed in here. We'll get these wires over in the corner. My big fat finger out of the way. Alright, we'll put the Arduino in there with the standoff, roughly where it goes into the programming port access. So there's what we have so far. I'm not going to bother to screw that in just yet because I'm sure I'm going to have a few more iterations here. Alright, and then we'll put the battery in. Maybe. Okay. Like I said, we'll stuff it in here. Alright, there. It's stuffed. Alright, battery's in. We'll put the battery wires in there. Cross your fingers. Let's see if this lid will slide on. Alright, did I know I missed it? Alright, so got it started there. It'll snap closed, but I see one thing I'm going to have to change. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me try it. Move that back a little bit so there's not as much glare. No, maybe against that. Can you see how the sides are wanting to crown out? I can't get enough of my fingers in there. So instead of it going straight up, it's wanting to go out like that. So I'll have to make the lid just a bit skinnier so it's not pushing out on that box. I already have 10 thousandths. They're basically 1/4 of a millimeter clearance on both sides there, so I'll probably add another, I don't know, we'll say 1/8 of a millimeter, another 10 thousandths, 5 on either side, and that should do it. But even coming off of there, it's a lot better. Looks like I forgot to take the I forgot to take the points off of there, or I didn't save it before I In any case, those are coming off of there because they're trying to give me fits. So what's left here? That works. That works. That works. Not bad. Take those off, make that a little skinnier, and I think we have it. So I'm feeling pretty confident that what are we up to here? Rev 3? Our Rev 3 will take care of... Oh, and I just broke my charger. I think I broke my charger. Let's take a look. Yeah, big old fat hammy hands. Alright, so let's pull this back out. I like to grab it here where it's got the beefy metal, where you know, they've soldered the tabs from that metal to the board. That way it gives me something to grab onto besides the PC board. But what I'm afraid I did, let's see, oh, I pulled it loose. Looks like I pulled the core loose. Yeah, shoot. I don't know if you can see it here. Let me see if this, let's see if this works. Let's see if I can get you this might work. This is how I see what I'm doing, because yeah, when you get up there, your eyes don't want to work. And yeah, you can see that little coil there. Let's see if I can get this to stay so I can use both hands. Nope, it's not gonna. There we go. Alright, so you can see just this guy right here. In fact, I need something even finer to poke with. Alright, so there's our board. And there, right there, this guy right there is the coil. There, and it's broken loose. Just got it loosened up. Now it looks like it's still connected. It'd probably still work. I don't think that that's a ferrite core, but I'm not going to take any chances. These things are a dime a dozen from Chinese, yeah. And I'll just replace it with one I don't have to worry about replacing later. So we'll use that in another project. So, pieces I need to change to make the lid just a little bit skinnier. Take those points off of there. And I think we're good. One other thing I didn't mention was I also had a sharp edge on the latching edge here that, you know, once you slide it on, it kind of locks in. I don't know if you can see it there. I've managed to break it off of there because, again, sharp edge, there's not a whole lot of strength. So I'll blunt that down and make it work more like, I don't know if you see on this one, see the profile of that, how it kind of has a ramp and then a blunt. I'll try and blunt it like that so it snaps in better. But we'll see. I'm going to switch from yellow, which means don't use this because it's experimental. At least that's the color coding I use. I tend to go with yellow for stuff that, you know, I'm going to cover with paint or something else, or if experiment. I mean, it's the only thing that's cheaper is like the gray, the silver filament. But again, it's just so I know it's bright. You can't miss it. Well, I can be looking right at it, still not see it, but we'll go with that. Rev 3 we up to? And okay, that's going to take probably not as long to modify the design, but still going to take an hour and a half to print another set. I'm going to switch to black, and that way we'll have the final. Well, perhaps the final version, one of the final revs. We'll say Rev 3. And I'm going to get that done, and I'll be back to you a couple minutes, to me a couple hours. See you then. All right, we're back. Had quite a few more hours than I expected. Last night I decided to fast forward and put one together, make sure it all worked before I continued on with making more. So, like I said, I have a wider one that I have vector board, so I found that, thankfully. And what I'd used is some copper tape just to make a crude PC layout. I don't know if you can see that. It doesn't look like it wants to focus very well. But like the board that's up there now. Let's see if I can. It's hard to tell. You can kind of tell the right angle connector here. There. Maybe you can see that. It's equivalent or identical to the one here up on the one that's already connected. So, the reason it's the next day, I decided to go ahead and update the design for the wider one as well. The original one was for the skinny one, and that's the one I used to put together the completed car. So what we'll do is we'll put this one together. These are identical. The one on the bottom here already has the charging system in it, and the switch, again, it's not totally mounted in there. I'll come back to that in a moment, but what I want to do is get the controller in there without pinching the wires, which I've done. So let's see if I can do this. Get these in the corner like I did with one of the other earlier revs, just enough to get them out of the way. And we'll put the board in here. Oh my God, this is really a difficult thing to do, to get this all packed in here. But again, I'm pleased with the results, the fact that I can get all this packed in there. I really didn't want to have to put it inside the car itself, because that's it's just too much work to take that apart and try and find a place. What I did was, I don't know if you can see the frosted window here in the back corner. There's like a bulkhead, an L-shaped bulkhead that's supposed to delineate a bathroom on the passenger car. So any circuitry that I would put in there would be in there and hidden. I might have a light in there, so I don't want it to where, you know, it'd have to fit in there. It'd be even more constrained than this. As you saw in that earlier example, the light strip there has a connector that comes down in there and then meets up with the wires, the other end of the wires in there, so it makes it a lot easier. In another installment, maybe in this one later, I'll show you why I decided to go with just a direct wiring versus, in these, the original design has a copper finger that goes on either side, perhaps as brass, I don't recall. But the battery there was a switch that I've removed from here and put in the box, and that would send the power through those two side plates, or side runs, whatever you want to call them, and they would contact the top, the strips that would then send power to the it's just hand waving until I can show you what I'm talking about. Long story short, it's not reliable. It's a real pain to try and get everything lined up, and if you can manage to get it lined up, it's still half the time won't work once you take it apart because something's just not the way it used to be from the factory. So we'll leave that for another chapter, we'll call it. Put the battery in, stuff wiring in there, and let's see here, maybe. There we go. So, one thing I should note, added the feature, and I may want to redesign that. You can see the ribs and the little arrow, you know, for how to open it, points in the direction to slide it open. So, this one's a little skinnier, slides on there, oh, and it snaps on there, stays put, everything fits nice and snug, no pushing out the sides like it used to. So I'm very happy with that. Now, really what I need to do is, I've also printed a number of these, if I can get my fingers on one, number of these tabs that need pressed in there and glued. Now I've already tested that. These holes I may, you know, already looking at Rev 4, but for what I have now, I have enough of the Rev 3 that I can make it work. It takes a little work with a file or an X-Acto knife to square off those openings. The slicer, I use Cura as my slicer for 3D printing. And I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can get some more light and get that a little closer without it losing focus. See how the edges are kind of rounded there? It's more of an oblong or an oval. And we'll call it oblong shape. That that needs to be cleaned out and squared off to match the profile on these guys here, which you'll never be able to see. I can barely see it without my magnifier. Anyway, I may redesign that to where the bottom's fairly thick. The bottom in these boxes is 88 thousandths. So I keep going in multiples of 8 thousandths because the nozzle and the depth that the slicer likes to use for layers is 0.2 millimeters, which is 8 thousandths. So if I make it 80 thousandths, that's 2 millimeters. If I make it 88, that's 2.2 millimeters. So that's 9 layers versus 8. What I can do is the sides are 40 thousandths or a millimeter. What I think I may do is make 2 pieces. One that's the box and then another kind of like the old style here, to where it had just the flat and the tabs, but an opening in the box to where this can actually fit in the bottom, be a couple pieces, say 40 thousandths, 40 thousandths, or 48 thousandths, and then these openings would be larger, so that would slide in the bottom and then snap in all together. In fact, it could actually be, it wouldn't have to be a huge piece like that, thinking about it. It could just be little smaller ones that have an opening large enough, an opening large enough here, not that small one like you're seeing there, but just enough to allow the edge of that tab to fit through there, and then enough of a square base to, you know, fit between the holes there, the mounting holes, just enough to snap in there. That way I wouldn't have to worry about modifying it, gluing it, just have a couple of alignment runners there, an outline for the tabs with a base, if you will, to fit. I'm just thinking out loud. Anyway, I'm quite pleased with the way that this went together. This is much sturdier. I mean, I can hit this all day long, and the most it does is maybe snap open. So if I do anything, I'll add a little bit more meat to that latching tab there. But it's nowhere near as weak as this old design was, my Rev 1. If you will. I'll bring it a little closer, maybe you can see that a little better. But this here just likes to fall apart by looking at it wrong. So this, take the place of that and snap right in there. Everything's contained. All you need to do is run the wires in through there and connect it, snap it in place. You know, it's not that simple. Run the wires through, connect it, put everything in there with it snapped in place, and then slide the cover on. I'll show you that with the completed one in a moment, or another installment. We shall see. So we have the box for the, I think you say that, Lowlin, and these guys are Amica, I don't know how you pronounce those. But I've got a bunch of these, and I'm using up these mainly because of the larger form factor. If I have the space, I'll use the larger form factor, but for the ones that I already have, you know, assigned, if you will, I'll use the larger ones, and I'll save this for other projects. I'll most likely stick with these smaller ones, but let's see, are there any features on here? Well, really the only thing I've added is the ribs there to give you a little bit of traction, a little bit of friction there for your thumb to get a hold of that and pull it open. Makes it a lot easier when you can just slide it like that versus having to get in there and pry it and pry up. And that just, the added feature there is those tabs are about here, so if you push down there, it tends to push open that latch there. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But let me move this out of the way, and I will show you the finished product. So here's another identical baggage car. You can see same type of setup underneath. Now I've got the, let's see if I can get the light just right. Okay, you can see the tabs there. I can slide this open nice and easy. There's the battery and all the guts underneath it. I'll slide this back together. Snap it closed. So we got the power switch. Let me see if I can get that in the shot. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, and I've actually, that's one of the features I added. I put a 0 and a 1 for on and off because it drives me nuts looking at something like that and you don't know what's on and it's off, and if the battery's dead, you really don't know. So we'll turn it on, and you can see right away there's the LEDs. So what I'm going to do here now is, let me turn that so you can see it a little better. I'm going to turn this overhead light out, give you a little bit more subdued lighting. You can see the entire thing. So here's the, see my 3D print test cubes there that are make good boxes if you color them brown, or they look good enough in this light. But in any case, there's a web interface, and this is the best part because it's one thing to have it, you know, just by default come up and turn on, and I mean that's great. That's more brightness than you get out of the 2 bulbs, those incandescent bulbs that come with it by default any day. I'll have to put all these effects together. This is definitely going to be another video. Put these effects together with the user interface here. Anyway, I'm going to cut this one off, and we'll see you next time.